give Brian a round. Thanks for coming out this morning. I don't know if I can say my own name in 6 minutes, so I should probably time this. Let's start off. Thanks for coming. Qwyvr is a digital replacement for cash. There's a couple of regulatory changes that we're in the middle of, which creates kind of a fintech revolution. Bitcoin, many of you will have heard of Bitcoin. The Durbin Rule, which is part of the 2010 Consumer Protection Act, which essentially killed debit. And then that is, as a causal effect, debit has basically gone by the wayside, and we're seeing more and more high-priced credit cards. So the merchant's clamor is give us a faster, more secure, and cheaper way to transact, and that's what Qwyvr is. So, not to wow you, but this is an overly simplistic credit card acquisition cycle, and this is why cards cost so much. So there's a lot of fluff in the center. Every entity on the screen bears risk, and risk gets paid in a card acquisition model. We think that the opportunity for a new payment system is this right here. Who has a chipped card or has gotten one the last couple of? So have they been arriving this year? All right. What you haven't seen is the merchant endpoint that that's going to plug into. And many of your local businesses are getting those right now. And so your card will actually go in, tokenize that transaction. Apple Pay already does that in a really slick way. And come October 1st, what happens is if that merchant takes a swipe, 100% liability and chargeback risk is on that business. I.e., if you say, I didn't make that transaction, there's no dispute. He's going to eat it. It's been in operation in Europe for 3 years, and it's driven up card not present fraud by 79% year over year. So e-commerce gets crushed. Retail commerce, however, brick and mortar commerce loves this right here. This is what a Qwyvr transaction looks like. So basically, our partner bank has been so gracious as to attend today, Ms. Michelle Harold, out of Atlanta. So basically, we're creating a closed-loop, vertically integrated payments channel. We have a merchant endpoint that exists here. We have a consumer application, and again, we own the network. What's never been tried, to my knowledge, is the elimination of direct monetization. So the card model, 1958, Fresno, California, the Bank of America card, created the model. We're going to charge merchants basically 3 to 4% for every swipe, and that's going to be it, right? What makes a Bitcoin transaction such a beautiful thing is Bitcoin on network is free, right? The problem there is that you can't conduct your whole life in Bitcoin, right? So death, taxes, groceries, you can't do it. So if Bitcoin got there, it would be invincible. Here's a merchant example. This is one of my buddies who runs a food truck locally. These are his real numbers. So he never keys in a card. That would be a card not present transaction. He runs Square. 10% are business cards or high rewards cards. Average sale 8.75 on the truck, $28,000 a month. So there you go, estimated monthly cost. Traditional processor and merchant services agreement over here are going to be the highest price option. Square, beautiful thing, flat 2.75. Sometimes Square eats it, sometimes the merchant eats it. We don't know, right? With Qwyvr, this model right here is at a flat 0.5 per transaction, so that's the direct monetization piece, and then 0.75 when he withdraws to a bank account. Vastly cheaper, right? We get this criticism a lot. You're creating a two-sided marketplace. We know that. What's in it for the consumer? We're building that. We're working on a web-based B2B payment system that closes in real time. There's big problems there on the merchant side. Payroll, for any of you that have ever done your monthly payroll, you'll know how painful that can be. The merchant endpoint, let me just show you that thing right here because I'm probably running out of time. So the consumer application, the beta release will be 1 June. Super simplistic, link a bank account, fund that bank account, and then either peer-to-peer, which is free on our network, or C2B if they're running the merchant tablet, and this is it. We call it Arrow, that name will probably change, as will the company's name. I'll get to that later. Bluetooth primarily with a QR reader backup. So when the consumer walks in your shop, you're going to see them racked and stacked. The merchant will see them racked and stacked based on nearest to farthest. He simply reaches over, taps that customer, enters the amount, hits send, and the consumer just one tap to approve on his end. It's significantly faster than an EMV, which you will all soon learn. And then this little fellow, we're still looking for a channel partner on it. We call it Bertha. We're going to go back to that name. This is a converted military circuit board with a NSA level encryption algorithm and a Bluetooth connection. So what it does is basically handshakes with the app and says you may transact on the server. So no actual PI or payment status flowing between here and here. We think this is the height of transactional security. Best of all, it doesn't require an internet connection to authenticate and prove that transaction. Built for things like Coke machines, there could be other applications. That's going to be boring. Oh, well, okay, so all these numbers are modeled on what we know today, which is a flat 1% withdrawal fee, or that's what the modeling is based upon. We think we can sell Bertha for $125, but that's just a wild guess. And then the known customer acquisition cost just to get them onboarded to the system is $2.67. Everything else is a whack, which is pretty standard for a startup. Here's the team, which you don't care about. Miss Michelle Harold is the strongest member from the finance side, and then Tyler Wood's right there builds back-end software for us. This is my favorite dude on the team, the lead air and space engineer for Raytheon, and he builds hardware. We're raising 300 plus 175 has been committed, so we're 75 short of the seed round. I think that will flesh out on May 20th. We want it to be in the form of convertible debt, but we will put a pre-money valuation on it right there. Right now that flag is at 2.25. So if they want traditional equity to price the round, we'll do it. But I would prefer to stave off pricing the round until a later date. And then a word on the name. So for those of you who wish to form a company, when your attorney says, would you like to do a trademark search, and it'll cost $2,000, you say yeah. All right? So we thought, let's be unique in our spelling. Let's make sure we own all the domains, and then let's go get a trademark. Turn that on its head, right? Be spelled the way you sound. Make sure the trademark is clear, and worry about the domain last, right? So those are the simple rules. So there's a Canadian Qwyvr that roughly does payments, and will probably never go to market in the United States, but they have an intent to use, which is going to block that name. So as much as I love Q in all its glory, Q is going to have to go away.
They're actually in the payments business too?
They do some gift card sending that...
The owner of Comparity.com is an electrician in Scotland. Go figure.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That's good. Thank you very much. Zach, I'm good. Maggie?
So let's pretend I'm a gym and they take monthly recurring payments. Is that something that's set up day one, or is it more single-use type of transactions?
It's going to be, so that day one product is meant, and you know him well, for a counter model retail restaurant. And the merchant endpoint Bertha, the offline gig, is meant for a food truck. We got the feedback. Anybody know Jody's popcorn? Best caramel corn on the planet. Jody gave us the feedback, oh my God, I've used that, Bertha, because I often go to craft fairs and nobody has a cell signal. Now, I will sustain the criticism that if one side is dark, then aren't they both? Not necessarily. We're friends with the guy that runs the Dallas Cowboys merchandise band. oftentimes his Square POS in the truck will be down because he's the large data user on that node, but the consumer still has a bit of a sub-signal, right? And so that solution would keep him up and running where any given Sunday, thanks, that his POS is going to go down at least once, right? So we just kind of got to dance with what we've got, right? You can't build all things. I would love to do recurring payments, but not an initial release.
Does it save credit cards in the system so that you could at least have an account or profile for that person, so every 30 days you could say, hey, I'm about to do this tune to that manual process, or is it not save that?
No, the only payments option within it today is our own payments.
It's a closed loop payment, I think. So you have a list of like 4 closed loop payment companies up there: Uber, Easy Pass.
Examples of closed loops.
Yeah, where you're
Right,
using
so
everything within there. Is Stripe one of those? I mean, not sorry, Stripe.
Square?
Yeah, Square Cash. I mean, Square, they have a whole bunch of products.
Square Cash, Pick and Catch is worrisome. Okay. As is Venmo, because I cannot figure out their pricing structure. But who's running Venmo or has heard of it? Are you fans? You love it? I love it. I'm worried that they're going to go to market with a C2B platform, but
Maggie?
So you just won a 30-second Super Bowl ad. Can I hear your pitch?
well, the first thing I would do is I would keep that name and I would put the girl from the Hunger Games on there. That's me. Right? And we might not even say anything. Jennifer Lawrence shooting arrows, Enough said.
So when people are redirected to the website because they're very curious about what you offer, what would be the highlights, the talking points, if you will?
Where we're holding it today is a 66% reduction in electronic payment spending, and that's good enough. So the merchant acquisition on this system is super easy. It sells itself. I'm not even a good sales guy, and I get 6 out of 10 local businesses, right? Who wouldn't? What's going to be harder is how do we acquire the consumer side, right? So this is it's a chicken or the egg thing. That's why you don't see more people doing this, because you have to answer both sides, right? And I'll be honest, we've got the merchant side figured out. We've got some ideas, again, startup, of what's going to be appealing to the consumer and how to make this attractive to them. There's enough fluff in a credit card transaction that we think we can give some of that back. Capital One has, to my mind, the world's greatest cashback card, and it's pretty much 1.5. And if you read the fine print, you're not really getting 1.5, right? So if you could be 1.5 true cashback, I think that would be net valuable to the consumer, but we'll have to build to that.
So how does, things like Apple Pay, somebody like Apple moves into the space, it doesn't really matter what they're doing, they're in the space.
Yeah.
But what are the sort of real differentiators? They're just storing your credit cards and you're still in the credit card game? Is that really what it boils down to?
It's just another way to link a card-paying customer with a merchant. They do it very well. They're Apple. They got crucified a couple of weeks back by CNBC because I could steal your credit card, go buy an iPhone 6, load that credit card up in there, and then everybody goes, ah, God, it's Apple Pay, it's super safe, right? Right, you'll never be questioned on it. And so they did some testing, and that actually is a little bit of weakness. So if the card loaded into the iPhone is fraudulent or stolen, it's actually still the underlying transactional medium is a credit card, right? So I agree that at the point of sale, that tokenization by Apple is our none.
So probably a naive question, right? So they have the merchant, they have the consumer, they could just kick the credit card out of the middle and say, all right, we'll give you the 1.5% and take it. Is that?
If they ask you to link the bank account, then they could do that.
Okay, yeah. That's a key thing, right? That's the link of bank account, because they do that for PayPal. Okay, got it.
Right. Sir?
So if you're getting a 6 out of 10 conversion on your merchant side, on your business side, and your trouble is on the client consumer side, what are you guys doing, what kind of strategy do you have in place to educate the consumers?
Okay.
What are you doing in that space?
Let me Okay, so in software development, I had to learn this the hard way, is you can't do everything you want to do. So we were actually building to this, and then we had to stop and say, we're just going to execute payments for the beta. So, and this will rapidly be folded in, but I'll just go ahead and tell you. So there's a heat map in this thing, and today when you, well, thereabouts June 1st, if we can get it there, you'll be able to download it and use it yourself. You click on the map, and what you're going to see is just merchants that take Qwyvr. It's just going to be a pin on the map, and that dude takes Qwyvr. If you're a fan, go use it. What that was supposed to be, and if we knew how to do this, that merchant can set his rate of cash back to you, and he will thereby be highlighted on that map based on that rate of cash back. So if that's valuable to you, you can go you know, Camos in Chesapeake is doing 4% back. I'm gonna go eat at Camos, right? So you can select based on that. It's fraught with risk. I know that Evan will at some point set 4 and then get nervous and set 2, and you've already started driving. Like, we're gonna have lockdowns on this. Maybe once you've set it, you got to stay there for 48 hours. Why would get?
Well, how about just reaching them, right? So you're just asking me about how we just reaching them. Is that social media campaigns?
My concern is them understanding the benefit to them. So, I mean, that's essentially the challenge that Stripe had, essentially the challenge that Square's, to some degree now, that PayPal's made some adjustments, still having.
Sure.
So, it was the same thing with PayPal. It was, all of us on the business side, this is amazing. It's a low barrier to entry for us on the business side. But for those we were talking to, it's too much risk initially. And so
Square, you mean?
Square, PayPal. I mean, I've been doing web development for 15 years. I was around before there was a PayPal. So as PayPal rolled out, our challenge was, we love PayPal as a business, but when we introduce it to people, they're nervous.
Think about all
so
the people
how
who
are
were
you
nervous about it for
guys
so long, right?
kind of,
Okay, so
you know,
the merchant
introducing that?
the merchant endpoint was originally, and this was our mistake, we designed it as a bit of software you can download and run on your phone. We thought, how awesome! I'm going to give you your merchant endpoint, you can just run it on your phone. And the feedback from merchants was flat no. You think I'm going to slave my personal cell phone for business use or ask an employee to do it? So what we were told was we want it on a tablet you send us so that that tablet can start that conversation. What is that? Oh, that's my Bertha. Right? What does that do, right? You might get a few consumers to switch in that way. When it's like visible,
There's somebody doing that now,
tangible,
right? The one who's trying to take over all of the
belly, loyalty.
Yeah, loyalty.
Yeah.
Right. But they definitely have some people in the room who can help you reach the customers, right? Yes?
I mean, isn't it an option to like sell to an Uber? I mean, there's probably people out there who've created like Angie's List or something, and I don't feel like paying my contractor cash. Why can't Qwyvr be the payment process for Angie's List if you have a profile in there? Is that one thing you're considering?
Love to. Yeah. Right.
So you want to know about a company called HandyLo, who's interested in doing that. But that's a great idea.
Thank you.
That's a great idea. Other questions? I know we have a final question for Brian, which is, and I think you've already kind of got to it, but what is like the #1 thing that people in Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads can do to help Qwyvr?
Well, Zach already knows this well, but I want Bertha with the HRT. That's what I want.
Like
right
on the ferry.
Right now, you have to have exact change to ride the ferry. We can solve that.
And we're trying to test that soon.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I think it would be a great fit. They won't return my phone calls for some reason.
It's my fault.
Probably.
Okay, well, great. Thank you very much, Brian. Okay, so we went over last time, so we're giving it back to you a little bit this time. We're at 9:45. We had 2 great presentations, lots of good Q&A. I'm actually, if I can do to make this thing stop and show you who's gonna be here next week. ASAP Technologies and 757 Makerspace. I know those are gonna be both great presentations because those are great folks. So make sure you tell everyone about coming here. And let's see. I think I went through my checklist. So grab a little coffee, hang out for a little bit, talk to each other, and we'll see you guys next week.